All right. So now we're going to the wheel. Because in a nutshell, this is what service is about. Service is what makes this available to anybody and everybody. Right? We can't do this without you. Because without you, you don't need me. Right? You are the priority. Okay. So for those of you that are new, this is the Wheel of Wisdom. It is filled with questions that you put up here, that our online people put up here, that complete strangers email me after seeing one of our services. They email me questions to go on here. So it brings the service back to the community so that I'm speaking to what you want to know about, not what I imagine you should hear. It's another way to burn another volume of Shouldapedia. So our overarching topic this morning is living as consciousness, and let's see how that's going to get contextualized. Okay, let me go over here so I can read this. How do we bridge the loudness of strong to the strength of gentle? This comes at the beginning of our spiritual practice for a reason. So that I can take this into prayer and meditation to be informed how best to respond to these questions. Let's take a breath together. I don't do anything, I communicate nothing with the musicians to pick the songs. They pick whatever songs are called to them. They have the same stuff available to them about the talks that you have. And so we've just trusted that Spirit as them knows exactly what to sing. And clearly it does. So we're going to start with just the reminder that we're finishing up our annual theme of First Thing First. And this morning we're finishing up our metaphysical look at the 11th step, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with whatever our higher power is to us, praying only for the knowledge of its will for us and the power to carry that out. And so we touched on a lot of things last week, and this week we're going to really look at the relationship of our humanness with the infinite. Because that's how we understand things, is by relationship. And sometimes in metaphysics, we get too focused on not personifying creation to the point where we can't even relate to it. Right? What's important is that we know it's not separate from us. And beyond that, we have to figure out how we relate to it. Essentially, it's much like the practice of a spelling bee. Any other nerds in here really enjoy a good spelling bee, or is it just me? So the process of the spelling bee and how it relates is, first of all, there's only one source. There's a bunch of dictionaries in the world, but they only use one source. Right? How many sources are there in creation? One. Right? How do they get clues about how to spell a word? They ask about its origin. What's the root of the word? They ask for it to be used in a sentence. They ask, the most powerful thing they can ask from what I've gleaned watching spelling bees, where it really tips the scale for them, is, can I please have the definition? What if we practice the 11th step And our prayer was, may I please have the definition. When we're in a situation where, and I love this question, how do we bridge the loudness of strong to the strength of gentle? The quote that instantly came to mind when we went into the meditation was Bishop John Shelby Spong. Most of the noise comes from the shallow end of the pool. How do we balance the loudness of strong? May I have the definition, please? What is the loudness of the strong? What is it? And why is it so loud? If it's so strong, why is it so loud? Maybe it's not as strong as it's pronouncing that it is. Because strength doesn't need to be loud. And that's the bridge, is understanding. If it's really strong, it's quite silent. May I have the definition, please? One source. When we're unclear who we are and where we fit in, what if our only prayer was, may I have the definition, please? What if we understood that God's will, is simply to express, and that you are God's will in form, because you are God expressing an idea of itself as you? Can I have the definition, please? Each of us is a different word in the dictionary of creation. May I have the definition, please? See, when a spelling bee is happening, they're not looking at somebody else. Right? They don't get a word and then they look at all the other words that it's not in order to know how to spell the word that it is. May I have the definition, please? What if you stop defining yourself by what you're not? I'm teaching Beyond Limits. And in this past week's chapter, a brilliant analogy was used about how energy moves energy. And the example that was used is how animated we are when things are wrong and how quiet we are when things are right. How little energy we have when we're declaring the magnificence of creation. But let something be wrong, we're screaming from the rooftops. Which one is most important to us? Why are we making what we don't want so strong by making it so loud? May I have the definition, please? What if, instead of railing against something, what if we got so excited about the solution that we didn't even notice the problem anymore? That's available to us. But we cannot spend all of our energy railing against all of the things that we hate, and then when it's time to profess what we want, we're exhausted. We got no energy left for the solution. And do we even know what the solution is at that point? Most of us don't, because most of us will tell you the solution is to not have that. Anybody raise kids? Right? What happens when you tell them not to do something? Yep. then go do it. Right? Do not jump on the bed. Count on it. The most terrifying moment for us as parents with small children is silence. Because we know something ain't right. So maybe it's not about getting rid of the noise. Maybe it's about understanding what the noise is. May I have the definition, please? Instead of us defining what it is, what if we ask the sole authority? When you have those questions, what is going on in this world? Answer the question. Answer the question. One of my favorite things to read, people who make a spiritual practice of spiritual bypass. You can find it on page 252 of Living the Science of Mind. It's the first paragraph. In the science of mind, we do not say that everything is all right when it is all wrong. Okay. How many of us just want, oh, it's all good, while things are falling apart? That's not what we teach. We do not say peace when there is no peace. But rather we try to discover what is wrong and why we do not have peace. We do not say that people are not poor, sick, or unhappy. We ask why these things should be if the origin, cause of all things is harmonious, perfect, radiant, and happy. May I have the definition, please? We're so busy ignoring what's right in front of our face, what is screaming for our attention, that we miss it. Instead of pretending that the wheels aren't falling off, perhaps we explore, why are the wheels falling off? What are we believing that isn't the accurate definition? How do we know what we're believing if we don't ask, what am I believing? May I have the definition, please? And then listen. Most of us don't want to know. That's why we don't ask. We don't want the responsibility of knowing what is wrong, because then if we actually are even the slightest bit immersed in this teaching, we know that we have a responsibility to shift it. See, when we really get clear what the definition is, and there's one source, and there's one substance, and there's only one of us, that's not my problem, doesn't exist anymore. This idea of oneness cannot be a convenience. It has to be a truth. May I have the definition, please? Tell me where there is an other in one. What is the definition of one? It's one. It's not one and. It's not one except when. It's one. May I have the definition, please? And so if in the activity of this one, things are out of alignment, whose job is it to bring it into alignment? One. See? Everybody's. It's the one who notices it. It's the one who is willing to say yes. I know we use the phrase higher consciousness frequently, and I know language is a barrier because There's no way to accurately talk about an infinite with finite language. It's always going to fall short. So this is not about being the vocabulary police. It is about reaching beyond the words to what you actually believe, to what the word actually means that you're using. And so if higher consciousness is supported with a belief that there's a lower consciousness, may I have the definition, please, of consciousness? There's only one consciousness. Consciousness knows nothing about big or little. It doesn't know anything about higher or lower. That is a function of the human realm. And it's helpful to help us relate to it, as long as we understand what the definition really is. As long as we understand how we're using the words. One of the things that you get to do in a spelling bee is ask for the word to be used in a sentence. All right? Consciousness is a tricky word, because I can be biologically conscious that I am conscious, that I am consciousness in form, but I have a very limited consciousness of the consciousness that I am, even when I'm fully conscious. Right? I've used it a lot of different ways and correctly every time. May I have the definition, please? What are we actually talking about? Am I talking about more awareness? Am I talking about a clearer understanding of consciousness that I am? May I have the definition, please? What if that's all we ask for? What if we understood that God is just another word for consciousness? That it doesn't matter how anybody else uses it. It matters how you understand it. Right? That every time you hear the word, you stop plexing up because somebody hurt you with that word. And as a transgender man, I get it. I get it. Fundamental religion can be cruel. I remember Bishop Carlton Pearson. And if you're not familiar with him, he was a Church of Christ minister who had an awakening that we're lying to people. We're teaching people that God is cruel, and that's not right. And in his awakening, he got really clear about the definition. And he started preaching that. And it was ugly. He was expelled from the church. He had death threats, everything. He had built an amazing megachurch, all gone. All gone. And he did a workshop for us in one of our minister gatherings. And it was during COVID. And his first remark was, what I've learned most in my awakening is that Christians are mean when they don't get their way. That's coming from one who dedicated his life. So here's what I want to say about that. We are no different. We are no different. We have people in our own faith tradition who are not practicing what we teach. And why? Because we're human beings. Because we understand things differently. Because it is a challenge to just live in, may I please have the definition. To understand that God's will is simply to express. It's not, God doesn't have a workbook for every one of us. It's like, okay, Rafe missed that one, so let me create a lesson that'll bring him back to this one so I can check this off. And no. Because if that were true, free will wouldn't exist. We would simply be automatons. and there would be no way for creation to expand itself. It has to give its creation free will, and we recognize that will by desire. When we have a desire to express something. And what scares us the most is when the desire stops and we don't know who we are anymore. Because we're so identified with how we're expressing that we have forgotten who we are. We have bought into what we are and what we're doing. May I have the definition, please? Who am I? Who am I? Infinite possibility and form. It's quite indefinable, isn't it? Right? That does not sit well with our biology. Our little amygdala, that little 1,000-year-old brainstem back there that operates 100% on finite definitions that it can establish a sense of survival. When we say we're indefinable, it freaks out. And we experience that in our bodies. Learn to live with it. Learn to cherish it. Learn to appreciate. I talk to my amygdala. Every once in a while you'll see me doing this. I'm talking to my amygdala, reminding it that I know you're scared. I know you're doing your job. Shh. Shh. Sometimes when things come in that I am to say during these talks, you'll see me do it during a talk. I'm like, shh. Because my brain is going, do not say that out loud. Do not say that. People have opinions. Shut up. May I have the definition, please? And then our only response is yes or no. Are we going to be what we came here to be? Are we going to express what is alive in us to express? Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman, find what makes you come alive and go do that. That's what the world needs. The world doesn't need a savior. The world needs what is alive in you to express, even if it's being the best garbage collector on planet Earth. If that's what calls to you, go do it. And do it unapologetically. That's what the world needs. Is what makes you come alive. And to unapologetically do it. And so I invite you this week in your prayer work to simplify it. To recognize that there is one infinite source, that you are it in form, and then to simply sit with, may I have the definition, please? And then listen. May I have the definition, please? To find out who you are. When something triggers you on TV, great. May I have the definition, please? Not about the TV. About you. What just got triggered? We don't say that there's peace where there is no peace. We look for what's out of whack so we can bring it into alignment. Make your prayer this week. May I have the definition, please? And I'm going to leave it right there. Let's take a breath.